open it up, and then I'll start talking.
Okay, I'm going to open up the revenue neutral hearing.
Okay, you board members, you have 3 documents you can reference to help us down this path. One, and I do have to tell you I had a typo in the longer version that you have. At the end of the first paragraph, it says the RNR was 25.170. That is a mistake. It is actually 42.962. Now that's represented on the sheet that you received tonight. It's easiest just to look at the sheet, frankly. Okay, the RNR is the second year, new state law. Basically, it boils down to if any district is going to exceed the revenues that were generated the previous year, then the board has to have a hearing, which we're doing right now. And then if the board chooses to exceed that amount of the revenue, the cash, then an actual resolution has to be passed with an actual, what's it called, kind of vote where you have to raise your hand, and it's recorded yes or no for each individual person. Okay, how this works is the county clerk takes into account our assessed valuation and everything it plays into building our budget, and does math. Okay, our assessed valuation has gone up this last year by about $14 million, which is great, but that will trigger always that we'll need to address the RNR resolution. Always, just because as the assessed valuation goes up, the RNR goes down. So in order for us to generate the exact same amount of dollars as last year, the overall mill rate for the district would have to be capped at 42.962. Okay? Through the work that we've done, our mill rate is actually going down from last year by 1.49, but the mill rate that we'll be addressing in the budget hearing and then later on adopting is at 47.257. So that's 4.295 mils greater than the RNR level. So first of all, that needs to be addressed. Do you embrace that or not? The second piece of this, though, even if the board says nope, we do not embrace that, cut the 4.295 mils. We'd probably go to capital outlay to cut them. We would still have to pass the resolution because the way the law reads is if the overall millage exceeds the RNR rate or any one of 4 individual funds exceeds that individual fund's rate, and those are the general fund, LOB, capital outlay, bond, and interest. Well, here's the part that kind of makes me laugh because I don't want to cry. Statutorily, the general fund millage is 20. Statutorily, there's nothing we can do about that. That's what the law says, 20 mils. The RNR rate for the general fund has been computed to be 17.792 mils. So right off the bat, we've exceeded that because we're following the law. So even if the board does not embrace, the full millage we're going toward, we'd still need to pass this resolution because of that. And Mike and I, we know of no way to lower a statutorily required rate. So that's what we're here to do tonight. I recommend that the Board of Education read and pass, or you don't have to read it, but pass a resolution to exceed the RNR as set by the county clerk. And like I said, the vote itself has to be a roll call vote where each person's vote is recorded. So you're aware of that. It's an actual form we have. So right next to each member's name, we'll put a little check mark for yes or a check mark for no. That's what I have, Mr. President.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to exceed the revenue neutral rate for 2022-23.
Second.
Ryan and Curtis. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Casey.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 7-0.
Thank you. I don't know what we would have done if you had not passed that. So thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to close the revenue neutral hearing, and now I'm going to open the budget hearing.
All righty. We have to start with the information I've presented to you previously, but we still have to, new law this year. We have to take into account the state, our results on the Kansas State assessments from the year 2021. because they don't have the 21-22 data scrubbed yet, and it won't be talked over. So it's after all the dates have come and gone. The new law says every district, the goal is to get 100% of our tested students into levels 3 or 4 on the state assessments, okay? So what you have before you is the 2021 Kansas State Assessment data that shows what percentage of our students landed in levels 1 and 2. So if you simply do the math, in order to get to 100% of all these tested groups where they need to be, so like in 3rd grade, 71% of our students would need to move into levels 3 and 4. Okay, so you have all that listed before you. I will tell you, even though this is a year ago, preliminarily, the data from last year looks better. We're growing, but we have to live by what we have from, because the statutes say you live by 2021. So then the rest of this that has to take place is the building needs assessment have been done at the building level, each individual building level, and then is culminated into a report that I've presented to you previously, but I'm presenting to you again. The idea being, the goal is 100% of our students in levels 3 and 4, even though, in my opinion, it's nonsensical. Would be a miracle to make it happen. But the common barriers that are across the board with our buildings are the severe needs of our students in special populations, just by the sheer nature of the needs that we have amongst our student body, like in every other district as well. Good luck getting 100% of the people there. Secondly, special education is not fully funded by the state. So even if we did have the plan, it does take money, and they don't provide it. We do suffer from chronic absenteeism of our students. Just the sheer mobility of our students. We have a high ELL and migrant and actually homeless students. Just the sheer number of qualified teachers and applicants we have fine people, but we'd like to have more people from whom to choose. And then lack of expert professional learning supports in close proximity. Yes, we can zoom in to things, but that's just not as good as if we're doing something in person. So those are the common barriers after we examined the building needs assessments from the 4 buildings, which were put together by the principals and their building leadership team in concert with their teachers. So those are the common barriers. The next piece is, so what would we need to do budgetarily to perhaps address those barriers? And this is what we've come up with. Provide some specialized professional learning. Well, we're doing that. We're jumping into MTSS. So each one of these, you're going to find out that we're enacting these plans. We're addressing them. Hire additional staff to lower teacher caseload. That would mean we bring on other teachers just to lower the number of kids in our 4th grade classes or wherever, whichever areas. Hire some people to catch up with the chronically absent students. We have the second, we've had them for 2 years now. The student advocates, part of their work is to help any kid who's at risk. And one of those things is if you're chronically absent, good luck on doing well at school. New ideas, possibly hire a social worker to work with families who are in generational poverty and or just experiencing trauma, high trauma. I will tell you, having been in all the buildings throughout the beginning of the school year, we've had a great beginning of the school year, but we do have several high needs kids who take up truly a lot of time of many adults, or adults working heroically, but it takes away time from our principals to be able to work with teachers on learning loss and on our counselors, because they just have to dedicate so much time with each one of those individual students. And another new position I'll be presenting to you tonight as an option is the Director of Instructional Services. And once again, the idea behind that is to take away all that behind-the-scenes work that principals engage in as we move down the path of building professional learning approaches, buying resources. Anything that's just, oh yeah, by the way, do that as well, principals. And it keeps them literally from being able to be in the classroom at 10 o'clock. So those are some possible budgetary responses, okay? And the anticipated time to get 100% of our students to levels 3 or 4, off the record, I say infinity plus 1, but the official answer we'll turn in is 8 to 10 years. It's one generation, almost one generation of the school year. So we have to take all that stuff into account to then have the budget hearing right now and later on approve of the budget, okay? So the salient parts that I want to point out to you about the overall budget itself We have a pretty good increase of students on free lunches. It's grown from 322 students to 457. That's nice in that we have additional monies because each student is 0.5 funded, but that comes along with it more challenges. Our base state aid per pupil across the state is going up by $140 per student. That's a nice thing. Like I said earlier, our assessed valuation has gone up by $14 million. That's a good thing for us. The actual millage that we're proposing for you is going down from last year by 1.49 mils. It doesn't really change the world, but I like it when it's flat or goes down. So it will save a few dollars for somebody's house, taxes on their house. If this is all approved later on, the 47.257 mils represents a yearly tax of $543.45 for a $100,000 house. So if you have a $200,000 house, do the math, or a $300,000 house, you just do the math. And like I said earlier, as anticipated, our at-risk students have gone up, the sheer number of students. Other thing to talk about, our head count is up. Last year we're at 992. This year we're at 1,000, which is nothing but good news. So what's being proposed is that we'll be setting the millage at 47.257, and overall we'll have just about $500,000 extra in the coffers to be utilizing. But something of interest, last year the total amount of our budget associated with people and the associated costs, think FICA, insurance, all those different things, was 92% of our budget. This year, even with the increase of everything else I just talked about, it's now 95% of our budget, overall budget, is dedicated to the people. And that's fine, that's a good thing, within a wobble. So we have, the board has put the money toward people, historically and even more so this year. Because when you start talking about a $14, $15 million budget, and you say, what's only a 3% increase, it's a goodly amount of money, that's going into it. So that's the budget hearing. I'll answer any questions you might have. And later on, I'll be recommending that the board adopt this budget. And Mike's here to answer questions too. And it's not mandatory that you ask questions.
All right, if
Okay,
there are
moving
no
on.
questions, I'll close the budget hearing and we'll move on to our regular meeting. So the first thing I need to do is I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Jill and Curtis. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
You talk more into your mic, please.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan and Curtis. Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, recognitions.
One of the reasons I actually really enjoy with Southwest Kansas, it's the people, really, absolutely. But I will also tell you the last couple of years have been tough, with all the things hanging over the head of society that we didn't invent. And so my recognition and celebration is for the entire district this year. The school year started with such a feeling uplifted, energetic, happy, positive feeling to it. And I'm very, very, very happy about that. You walk through the hallways, kids are learning, teachers are teaching. We've adopted a new motto, if you will, but our vision, horns up, because it symbolizes, as far as we're concerned, feelings of pride, strength, perseverance, dedication to what we're doing, strength. And it builds on what's been going on for a period of time. It's really fun. You walk around the elementary school, and when the kids are in transition from point A to point B, I don't care if they're kindergartners up through fifth graders, you'll see them walking down the hallway like this with their horns up in the air. It used to be bubbles in their mouth and ducktails when you got down to second grade and younger. Now it's horns up, which I'm assuming that means, hey, be good, be proud, right? That's what that means. So very pleased with the beginning of the school year. That's my recognition.
All right. Well, let's move to the financial reports. Mike.
Okay, on page 1 of the warrants, kind of in the middle, I'll just point out Brick and Block Works. They did $19,900 worth of work over on Wiley, on some of the brickwork over there.
And then what you need to be aware of, that's to keep the weeping from occurring you know, that building, in my opinion, has issues, and so we did tuck pointing on that, and then Lance came along and in all the downspout areas, cut out the turf so the water will egress from the buildings, so as to keep us from getting water in the classrooms, so. Yeah, it's a good
Yes.
thing. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
And then on page 4, point out the Chromebooks that you guys approved came through, and we're paying them $119,650. Page 5 in the middle, Mid-America, or, well, yeah. Redid the gym floors, $7,372 to fix them up for the new year. So on page 8 of the warrants, total warrants for this month, $452,068.05. And then page 11 are revenues. We're doing okay there. And then page 13 with our current budget that you guys are going to be approving today. We hope. So if you have any questions.
Mike, what was the 30,000 to Dave's Electric, a generator or something?
Yes, so they're replacing the generator at the high school,
This was
the north wing.
Yeah, it's on the north wing. Basically, what happens if we don't do that and we have a failure, our entire technology system goes kaput. So these don't work anymore.
Oh, I think we talked about this last.
Yeah, this is one that, you know, Tom was on me for a while, wanted me to do it. I don't want to do that. And then finally, he enlisted Randy's aide to say, yeah, we're not going to have computers if we don't replace that. And then come to find out, we were looking for a 20-watt generator, and you can't get one. So we had to buy a 30-watt. And so finally, it's being installed this week, Tom? Or so the story goes. We'll see. That's what that is. That's what that is, Ryan.
Okay.
Any more questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials at $452,068.05.
So moved.
Ryan Schreivogel,
Second.
Ryan Ruda. Moved and seconded to approve the financials. All
So-
those,
I'm sorry.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Something I would like to point out on that final report that his name's Mike mentioned to you. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it's called a 331. That's one of the pivotal reports that I look at. It shows the percentage left in each fund. Okay, and so with the investment in the monies into the people, you know, we've had to look at our rollout versus last year, projected the rollout for this year. My goal is to raise that back up, to get it back up. So every month, Mike and I get together and look at that percentage. Where are we sitting? Where should we be? What's going on? And as we get down the path a little bit and it looks like, okay, we're right where we need to be, if not better, then I'll start opening up the coffers a little bit more, you know, as far as the ability to buy the non-discretionary things, or I'm sorry, discretionary things, fully well knowing 95% of our money is wrapped up in people. So that's a report. If you really want to have fun every month, look at general fund, LOB, capital outlay on percentage left. So, okay.
All right. Okay, no public patron concern, so we will move to administrative reports and Dr. Myers.
I already talked about the start of school has been excellent as far as I'm concerned. It's been quality, partly because the last 2 years we've worked hard to keep things going, but there's always with the cloud of something hanging over your shoulder. And right now it's just not there, and that's wonderful. Cnc Energy Audit has been completed. If you'll recall, this is that group that came up to look at the high school and the middle school. And in theory, just by controlling for relative humidity, they should be able to lower our electric bill. They've now done the work. They're crunching the numbers, and they're going to get with us in the next week or two. I'm not prepared to bring that to you as a formal proposal, but anytime we can look at infrastructure ideas to free up general fund or LFB money, we're going to do it. That's like when we did the LED project, is to free up those monies. So something's in the offing. We'll see soon enough. We had rumor mill heard a couple other entities are looking into the CNC group in Kansas as well. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes of that. Bus driver crisis is still alive and well. Reading Sam's report, we're still down 4 bus drivers. Lonnie, you want to be a bus driver? We'll hook you up. The some of the efforts that we're putting forth, though, we can train our people up in pretty much all the areas, but now we're looking toward, and Sam's got a couple options on a video training system, if you will, on passing the written portion of the test. Because as I've talked to people about, why aren't you doing this? You know, it's pretty good money, and you know, you can set your own time and all that. Don't want to read that 200-page book to pass the test. Well, the 200-page book takes into account more than just bus driving. And so we're honing in on, and Sam talked about, 3 different options today. And we're going to buy it. We're going to run Alex through it. He's going to pass the test. We're going to celebrate it. And he's going to drive every bus we own. But we did not invent this issue, but we're going to figure out a way to get more bus drivers. In the meantime, if we have to double routes, we will. If we have to use more vans, we will. Because we're going to try to, because ultimately, if you remember, the nuclear option is we shut down in-town busing. Don't want to go there, particularly with that train track. But if we don't have the drivers, we don't have the drivers. KISA, year number 2. This is the accreditation system. We're in year number 2 of the pilot. September 22nd is coming up. We're going down to Sublette again. What I want to keep you informed of on this is, in order to be fully accredited, the state of Kansas is now put in the definition. You have to do all these different foundational and compliance things, all this kind of good work, but then you also have to show academic growth. Okay, what does that mean? And the question I keep asking is, what does that mean? And all I'm hearing back is, we don't really know, but we'll probably start with the state assessments. I'm dead set against that. That's not a growth model. The growth model that we've chosen is the FastBridge progress monitoring system that we utilize, because that shows the students' growth from the beginning of school to the end of the school year. The state assessments, in my opinion, is a gotcha model. And so we are going to fight tooth and toenail on that. We'll see what occurs. MTSS professional learning is continuing. That's one of those things I talked about in the budgetary adjustments that can help with our barriers. Basically, it's a way to hone in on individual needs of all students. We've had it at the elementary level for many, many years, 7, 8 years, but it's never matriculated its way up to the secondary level. Well, we're going to spend a year learning about it at middle school and high school, plus, getting refreshed at the elementary. So this time next year, we will have fully launched into MTSS. And we have monthly meetings. It is important to point out to you the key tenets of this. And we have to continue to keep this in our mind's eye, and that is working with data with fidelity, standards with fidelity, and communication. And one of the pieces, I think this is pretty interesting, in school world at least, there's if you're at 0.4 correlation, it means it's having an impact. Right now, the research shows that the collective efficacy of teachers, if they truly believe in something, it's a 1.4 correlative response. So it makes a difference. And so all our efforts are trying to hone in and say, okay, teachers, what do we need to help us get even better at this? One of those things is take stuff off the table. And so we ask all the teachers to take this thing called the CARI. It's a survey of sorts. They wrote down everything that we're doing. And I think when we come together on the 29th, one of the things we'll be doing is, all right, let's look at this. That's some pretty cool things we have on there, but do we still need to have that on there? Whatever it is. And look to really hone in on what we're doing. So that's going on. And the final thing, kind of funny I bring this up right after I talked about that, the Longhorn Festival is around the corner. It's October 5. So we're going into, I cannot recall because too many years have passed, but did we do one during the height of COVID? I don't think so. Yeah, I think we skipped a year. So this will be year 4 of 5. And worked with Wheatland. They're all set up, ready to roll. I need to call Pepsi to get that going. But if anybody wants to drive the rec train, we're looking for a driver. But the Longhorn Festival will be held over there to the west of the high school parking lot. Each one of the schools will have minimally 2 booths. There will be hot dogs and hamburgers with a donation of a food product and or Goodwill donation. You get your meal. So that's coming down the pike, and that's been I think, really good event.
Clarification, the train,
Yes.
when you say rec, you mean the Recreation
I
Commission?
mean the Recreation
not
Commission train.
Wreck the train
Yeah,
with kids on it. Right. Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, if Lance drives it, you never know. So, all right, let's move to buildings. Tom.
yesterday, what did you say? Yeah. That our generator will be here Wednesday at 9 in the morning, and they'll have it hooked up by noon Wednesday.
It's
So-
amazing, because they said October.
Yeah, I know, so, they're not taking after our coon rod, so, hopefully not. And then our panels for our FFA barn are here. I'm just waiting for, Connor Harris to pay the rest of the bill, and we can go pick them up.
So this week, you think?
Yep, hopefully tomorrow. He said the manager of the Orchlands was not there today, and the lady couldn't figure it out, so hopefully we'll be getting them tomorrow or Wednesday, so,
Sounds like Horselands.
yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
All right, grounds, Lance.
I actually do got a little more, I was approached by Tony, Forson of the city.
Go to the mic, please.
Oh, sorry. I was approached by Tony Forson of the city. I'll pass that around. And I guess they got a marquee in already. You'll see it when it comes around, and they're trying to figure out a place to put it. He suggested down there on that empty lot that we got south of Wiley, and then Dr. Myers and I think this corner would be awesome right over here. So we'll get with Tony sometime this week, and they already got it in. They have it in their garage or in their shop and ready to go. So as soon as we figure out where we want to put it, it'll be up.
And so our out-of-pocket expense would be getting the electricity to it.
That's about it, yeah. And they said they'd trench the lines and everything to the electricity, so,
And we'd have to figure out that tree in the corner, because I don't want
right.
to cut down a tree, but.
Well, yeah. I don't know, maybe we can find an angle that everybody can see it from both ends, so.
Anyway, this is considered a thing, fancy dancy term, asynchronous communication. Driven by different places that have these kind of things. And I think if we have the ability to program in, hey, dance Tuesday night or whatever, that's the kind of thing we put into it. So,
Yeah, they said they'll scroll through their stuff and we could put our stuff on there, so it's kind of a neat deal.
All right. Thanks, Lance. All right. Transportation, Sam.
they could pay for it.
Thanks, Sam. Okay,
Yeah,
food service. Okay. Mr. Ackerman? Nothing further, Mr. Jones. Okay. All right, we'll move to the principals. Mrs. Albright.
With our work with the MTSS team with the state, Randy and I met with Fast Bridge coordinators with Tazen and had a few discussions, kind of how we do the Fast Bridge screening process and what that's going to look like with our new curriculum and the dyslexia initiatives and all that good stuff. Within our conversation, they suggested, with working with other districts in the state that adopted the same Amplify CKLA curriculum, that they suggested their first semester off of meeting with their intervention groups and doing the MTSS model, just because it's such a big curriculum difference from what we've ever been doing before, and that allows the teachers time to dig into the curriculum and really get going with it, and ensuring that we're doing it with fidelity and we have the time to do it, instead of stopping the core curriculum, jumping into intervention time and losing out on that core. Because essentially, if your core is good, you should have test scores going up and less students needing that intervention time. We couldn't quite wrap our brain around taking a whole semester off, so we did agree to hold off on the first quarter. So we have finished up our Fast Bridge screening, but we are not doing our power hour intervention time just yet. Our teachers are utilizing that additional time to continue the core work with Amplify, and I think it's been very beneficial. They don't feel as rushed. They do have that extra time if they're not finished with it, so that they don't just have to stop and move along. So we're seeing some good benefits there. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing when I'm walking into the classrooms with this new curriculum, just the knowledge that the teachers are teaching the students. One of our biggest concerns was keeping the students engaged with the topics, because it's a lot of sit and get. And with my age particularly, you lose them after about 2 minutes. So 60 minutes of just sit and get while looking at pictures is a lot, but our teachers are doing awesome. They've broken it up into different times throughout the day. We, like our first unit, K through 2, was mainly about nursery rhymes and fables and folk tales and tall tales and stuff like that. Really focusing on like rhyming down in kindergarten and things like that. But second grade had some really cool, they get a little bit more in depth in the first unit at more than kindergarten and first grade, but they were talking about Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill and some tall tales like that. And they did some really cool things by incorporating it into real life experiences. One of the second graders was able to bring in his dummy cattle head. I don't know, what do you call those things?
I think it's technically called a dummy cattle head.
Oh, okay.
That's good to me.
And his rope, and he was showing the kids how he ropes in the rodeos, and they just thought it was fantastic. And so doing some really cool things. The teachers have said that when the kids have the opportunity to go on their computer programs and look up stories that they want to listen to and read, they're choosing things that they've been learning about, you know, like Casey Jones and all those American frontier guys. So it's been fantastic. I'm excited to get it going. First graders were able to talk to me about the difference between the blood system, the muscles, and the bones in their body, and they just started that unit a couple of days ago. So it's going great, and we're enjoying what we're seeing.
I do want to give a shout out to Amy and Randy on this, because they could have easily just said, no, we do MTSS interventions, we'll just throw this on top of it. But back to the idea of teacher efficacy, building teacher efficacy, which is really nothing more than I believe I can do it. One of those variables is take away some stuff if we can for a little bit. Now, like Amy said, we couldn't see our way through doing it for a semester, but it's not like a Custer decision. You know, maybe we'll see later on. We'll slowly bring things back in. So good on you guys.
And it's a roping dummy.
Oh, I was close, right?
Yes.
Owl
Okay.
head rope thing.
Yeah.
I was close.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Tyne.
Just to add a little bit to what Amy was talking about with Amplify, I was in one of the 5th grade classrooms, and it was really neat to see what they were working on. They had a project, well, not a project, they had done some reading, and they were working on using quotes from the text and then saying how they could see the evidence of the injustice of segregation. So some pretty deep concepts that they're talking about, and I stopped and talked with 2 kids that were partnering up, and they said, well, the sentence that they had taken from the book was, the big boys went out and chopped wood, something like that. And I said, well, how does that show the injustice of segregation? And they said, well, at the white school, they didn't have to do that. Nobody had to go out and chop the wood. So it was just really interesting to see how they're digging into the text that they're reading, trying to use it to be able to just some deeper content that they're getting into, as opposed to some of the things that they had done in the past with our other curriculum. So that was really fun to see. I just wanted to add to my report, always this time of year is great for me. This is when we start our 5th grade jobs. So we get to see our new 5th grade students taking on more of a leadership role at Holcomb Elementary School. So if you were to come in the morning, I have a group of kids that come in and they do the announcements in the morning, which is good because, as we all know, it's hard to talk on a microphone or to hear yourself. And they can hear themselves out in the hallway, you know, from where we do the announcements. And they have to really work on talking slow, talking clearly, because in a lot of things they're leading the kids back in the classrooms. And so I talk with them about how, even though you can't hear them, when you are leading a big group, you have to talk a little bit slower so that they can keep up with you. So it's been really fun. Last week was their first week to come and do that. But we have a variety of jobs. If you come during the morning recess time for the 5th grade students, you may see them sweeping some of the wood chips that get blown around. You know, they tried to sweep a few. One of them said, I don't think we did a very good job. We didn't move very many wood chips. I said, that's okay. I said that you know, it's the work that counts. So we have some that may go around and look to see if any trash has blown in, and they just kind of help in that way. And then we have a welcoming committee. So if we have new students that need a tour of the school, we have a group that comes in and does that. We have the recycling committee, so they help and partner with the high school, who they come and collect all of this stuff, but they have a job in helping to do that to save a little bit of time for the high school students that are coming down to collect that. Trying to think of a few I know there are some other ones. I think we have some actors and actresses. So whenever we have our skits for our horns assemblies, they actually do the acting and acting out the new word of the month, different things like that. So it's just really fun to see kids take on that leadership role in our school. And then we rotate those every quarter so that hopefully every kid in the 5th grade gets to have one of those school-wide jobs. So that's kind of been some new stuff that's been going on at Holcomb Elementary.
Something I'd like to point out, at the bottom of Randy's report, it talks about the outdoor learning space. This has grown out of the concept of our fail forward grants that we do, the mini classroom grants, and with Randy's leadership and the excitement of 3rd grade, and then we were able to work with Garden City Community College and get some turf. The area over there just to the south of the FEMA room, the music room, and the 3rd grade hallway. It's a cutout in there. It's turned. If you've not gone down that road recently, go down that road and take a look to the right. You'll see there's some fencing up now. There's a storage unit. The idea is water reclamation is what we're doing. You think we're in the desert? How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to bring out divining rods. We're going to make it rain by gum. But it's project-based learning. It's K-12 approach. It's the people putting forth, or for science, STEM stuff. So good on you, Randy, and your 3rd grade group. It's going to be exciting to see that come together.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Helton.
I want to just elaborate on my report, our efforts we're making with career-based field trips this year. Relevance is one of our key outcomes as a district, and at the middle school we've always had an individual plan of study for the students, but we haven't honestly done too much with it. We've done the Zello program, done career interest inventories, things like that, but then never taken the next step. Well, this year, with Ms. Davis, our new student advocate, and Mrs. Cranston, our school counselor, they're working on taking the student results from those career interest inventories, and we're seeking out field trip opportunities that are related to their interests. And our goal, we're going to try to get as many 7th and 8th graders to have a career-based field trip in their time at the middle school, but our goal is 100% of 6th graders by the end of 8th grade, 3 years from now, will have gone on at least one that's a smaller setting that is tailored toward their interest. The one we're working on first off right now, and there's a Crime Stoppers convention for students in Hutch. Actually working with Officer Shelton, our school resource officer. Maybe he'd be the one who leads that. We've got 8 kids that for their career interest inventory, that was their top pick. We met with them, said, is this something you'd be interested in? They were all excited about it. So we're excited to see where this goes, make career exploration a little more relevant at the middle school. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tyler.
Important stuff you're doing on that, Tyler. It's good stuff.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
A couple things. Number one, excuse me. We talk about state assessment data quite a bit, and I would like to report with our state assessment data from the high school from 2000. This last year, our state assessment data was up. We were 10 points higher in math than the average of the state. We were 10 points higher in science than the average of the state, and in English, we were 10 points higher in English and science. Math, we were right on with the state average. So that's a good uptick for us at the high school. I think some of the initiatives that our teachers are starting and putting into it, we're starting to see progress. We're not out of the woods as far as we want more students in level 3 and 4 than levels 1 and 2. We did increase the number of students in levels 2 and 3. We would like to keep moving towards that, and I think standards-based grading that we're focusing on will help us get to that point. The other thing is we have changed our 7th hour, I guess our last day on hybrid days, to be what we call Longhorn Legacy Hour. Our vision for the high school is for students to leave a legacy. What do we want? What do you want people to say about you whenever you leave Holcomb High School? And so we're providing them opportunities. Our post-secondary success committee that's aligned with the state goals did a career interest inventory with the students, walked them all the way through it, and then they had them actually research careers in their field as much as what education do they need. And so that's going to be an ongoing process with them throughout this time. So that's our last hour and a half that we have on hybrid days. We have civic engagement also, so we rotate every 4 Thursdays. We have civic engagement, which is headed up by a committee of teachers that signed up. We have social emotional learning, and then we have our early release days that help us focus on our standards-based grading. So our first early release day will be actually tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And the purpose of that is for our teachers to get together and take a look at state assessment data, what standards are being tested on the state assessment, and then making sure that our classes are covering those standards as we go through. So,
I would like to highlight, it's in Jerry's report, but the virtual school is launched and going, and we have 10 students there, and that's 10 students who we would have lost. And so that's a growing concern, and we'll see how it develops, but it got an excellent start as far as I can tell. So, anything to add to that?
actually, we're at 12. We had 2
Really?
more students go
Well, look at that.
virtual this last week. One had a situation came up that it was best for them to go to virtual. The other one student was back and forth whether or not to do virtual, and so they're trying to do virtual.
And it's not that we know for a fact we would have lost those students, but probably would have lost those students, given our track record over the last several years. They would either just dropped out or gone to a different virtual school. So at least we get, keep them here in the land of Longhorns.
And with that, I'd like to put a shout out to Mrs. Wickworth. She's worked her butt off, contacting the state, contacting Garden City. She's running our virtual program, and she is constantly every day. It's like Dr. Myers always likes to say, you build the plane in the air, or whatever that your saying is there.
I know. I've got lots of sayings.
Not trying to suck up, so sometimes they're ingrained into me. But she is doing that. Like, we don't really know exactly what it should look like, so every day she is solving problems, and she is working her butt off in order to do it, and then it's making it work really well. So.
And I will tell you, I guarantee you, we will not be the recess, if you will. We have it built, and they have it built into the handbook that there are repercussions. You show up, do your work. Otherwise, there's a process where, all right, come into the school and do the work. It's still not working. All right, you're back in Gen Pop. I mean, so it's not a fly-by-night thing at all, even though we are building the airplane in the air. There you
Right.
go. So,
Yeah.
Gen
Something.
Pop. Sounds a little bit like prison.
it's Oz. Remember the movie, TV show Oz?
Yeah.
They talk about Gen Pop.
Hey, Jerry, you getting any pushback on the standards grading for the any of the teachers or kids?
No, and what was really cool is I surveyed all the teachers on our professional development to ask where they were, how they felt comfortable, either a 3, 2, or 1. I had, out of 28 teachers, only had 5 that felt the 1. And so we did our professional development by 3s all went together to kind of really hone in together. 2s went together, and I went down with all the 1s, and we had a good conversation. And out of the 1s, 3 of the 5 that were in there were all first-year people that's never heard of it. And so we just talked about how do we get comfortable with having the conversation first, so they just understand what it is. And both teachers that had been there previous said that after talking through it, they feel a lot more comfortable about it. So, yeah, most of the kids that we've talked to about it, they enjoy it a lot more because they get the chance for relearning plan. Is they don't have to just do well on the test the very first time, right? So they do it, they don't do so well, so there's not just reassessment. And everybody thinks that, well, you're just retesting them. You don't. You have to relearn. There's steps that you have to take. You have to redo homework. You have to have one-on-one conferences with the teacher before the teacher determines if you know it or not. My own student, or my own son, that was in English, he said he likes it a lot better because I actually learn the material instead of just trying to get a good grade on the test. And so you're starting to see the teachers that are really doing it. Our math group is really flying with it, and they're doing really well with it. Our English teachers are really doing a good job with it, and we have pockets here and there with it. But our goal to roll it out completely by 2023-24 school year, we're on pace for it. And the teachers are behind it.
I was prompted by a freshman girl that seems to bomb tests, but does very well on, you know, every homework assignment. So, you know, she's always wondering if it's going to stick. And I said, yeah, it's there to stay.
Yeah, well, and the good thing about that is if you bomb the test, then you don't truly know the material, right? So then you have to need to go back for a relearning plan. I love the people that come and talk to me and says, well, I'm just not a very good test taker. Because we don't know the material. We're not good at taking tests if we don't know the material. If we know the material, then we're good at taking tests. And I was that kind of student. I smoothed my way to 4.0 in high school because I can talk. And I would give that teacher whatever they needed in order to get me to an A. I would bring flowers, I would bring candy, I would bring whatever I had to. My best friend, I joke about this all the time with our teachers, my best friend in high school and I were right there. We were not the smartest in the class by far, but I ended up with like 3% higher than him in a GPA because the smartest girl in class, him and I would do homework together, and then I would go and get the answers from her to the ones we didn't know. Well, he never did that. And so why was I good at school? Not because I actually knew the materials. I knew who to go talk to more than I knew the materials. That's what we want to try to get away from, is just turning in homework to get points. You know, where do we actually know it and not? And if you don't know it, that's fine. Then let's give you the interventions you need in order to relearn it so that you do know it, because we care more about knowing it than just turning in work. So,
But I do want to take the opportunity to talk about it, but this is not just some panacea that is going to solve the world's woes. It's a lot of hard work. And I just happened to be walking through the high school today and wandered into Jerry's office. And he's there with Alex McCormick, our new student advocate, and Kent Teeter, who works with at-risk kids. And they've got it honed down to individual students, you know, looking at the individual grades and building plans at level 1 right now. So it's still data-driven. It's not like, we told you to go do it. No, there's a lot of good hard work taking place. And I'm excited about it. We'll see. You know, there will be some pushback because it's different. This is different, but I do think it's got more than legs. It should be where we head. So,
Good. Thank you, Jerry. All right, now we get a look at the Rec Commission.
that's misplaced. That's just the minutes that should have been up in the consent agenda. That's my fault.
So we don't.
No.
All right.
We'll do the budget later on.
Okay. Well, then let's move to unfinished business and new high school and middle school teachers.
Jerry, if you come back, please. Every year we bring in new teachers. This year we really, truly do have, well, every year we get the best we can find. We've got a really good crop of people this year I'm excited about. It doesn't look like everybody's able to be here tonight from both buildings, but we'll ask the high school principal to introduce his people, and then middle school principal will introduce his people.
All right, we had three brand new staff members, and we have one that was returning back to us. And so, new staff members here is, first one is Alex McCormick. Been here in the district before and was highly applauded for his efforts whenever he was here. And so, we really appreciate, he's the new student advocate, and so he works really closely with our at-risk students. And our at-risk students are the ones that are identified not as receiving interrelated services like special education and ESL. It's the ones that are struggling that sometimes slip through the cracks. And so those are the guys that, and Alex has done a wonderful job. He went around and introduced himself to every teacher so far, explained what he did, and just said is, if you have a student right now that you know that I need to be talking to, I want to talk to him. And Alex has been in classrooms as much as I have. So he's doing an outstanding job that way. Next one that we have here is Mrs. Crystal Cook. She is our government and geography teacher. Is doing some really cool things in the classroom. Does a really good job in the government and the geography, taking over those roles. So really appreciate her. The other semi-new one was Melinda Gershberger. We got Melinda back. She was our JAG teacher last year. About halfway through, had to leave, but she was able to come back. So our JAG program is rolling again, and she is doing awesome as ever, setting us up, getting ready for the pantry to really get going. And then I guess I'll steal the thunder on Mr. Bright. He is he couldn't be here tonight. He is our 712 or 612 music instructor, and Tyler will probably talk about him a little bit too. So he does an awesome job. That's our staff.
At the middle school, Megan Cornelson couldn't be here tonight. She has coaching responsibilities, but she's our 6th grade science teacher. doing an awesome job there. Rachel Davis, I had mentioned her in my report, our new student advocate. She has hit the ground running. We certainly miss Miss Martin. She was awesome, but Miss Davis has been amazing too. Working on making our education more, giving more relevant experiences to our kids through IPOS. Rylan Loudon is our new 7th grade science teacher, coming to us from the Garden City School District. That room has been very lively in a good way. The first couple weeks, kids are really excited about his class. He's doing some really cool things in there. And then Jeremy Purdy, who is with us, recovering from a kidney stone procedure.
Oh.
Bless your heart, sir. Joins us from the Liberal School District. I've told many people, and I'll say it on the record, I've been blessed to hire some great teachers in it's now 6 years. This is by far, as a whole group, the best group I've hired. I have veterans. The kids respond to their pedagogy. I'm very impressed with them. We're blessed to have all of them. And then the last one I wanted to introduce them was Officer Jason Shelton. And he's doing a tremendous job as our school resource officer, K-12 in all 4 buildings. Just today, though, I view that job as really important in building a positive image for what law enforcement tries to do to help our community. He was outside playing volleyball with the kids at recess today. So he's doing an amazing job with the position. So those are our hires at the middle school.
And what's cool about that is you'll see Jason in all 4 buildings, because the idea is, a police officer is our friend. At the same time, Jason gets involved when we have some miscreant behavior. And so the idea behind that, again, if you recall, the reason ESSER monies was approved to use for that was because we have seen at the middle school and high school an uptick on miscreant behavior. Well, that's taking away time from our principals to work with teachers and students on learning loss. I hope Jason has nobody to work with this year, even though you've already worked with 1 or 2. We'd love to have 0 criminal activities taking place. But Jason's here with the right feel and build a positive relationship. We want the kids to feel like I can go to the counselor, go to the principal, I can go to the SRO. That's where we're whatever order. So we're started off really well. So welcome, staff. You guys are more than welcome to stay. Somebody brought peach cobbler, or we understand.
My wife made it, I didn't.
You understand if you have other things to do. So
Thanks, guys. All right, we'll move to barn usage policy.
all right, here's the culmination of multiple years worth of work and specific real hard work at the board level for the last year and a half. The barn is done. Tom mentioned the panels are on their way in. It's we're waiting for the fans too. 19th of this month. Okay. Those drop ceiling fans we're going to put in there. But it's useful. It's ready to be used. So now it's appropriate to have policy for the usage of the barn. So we pulled together a crack team. The board representatives were Casey, Jill, and Matt. Marcy was there. Rylan was there. Tyler, myself, and Jerry were involved in this. And I learned a heck of a lot about livestock. I'm a city boy. I know about bucket calves now, by gum. And fully intact male animals, something else I learned about. So you have before you the actual school barn policies and procedures proposal for you. It's been well vetted. To my knowledge, it hits everything that people who are on the committee needed it to hit. It does talk about who's using the space. It's an educational space. It's not really a space for somebody who's not affiliated with the district to put a goat. It's not what it's for. It's for educational purposes. But anybody who's on the committee, please ask or add to what we're talking about here, and/or board if you have any questions for the committee. They're here to answer it. I do stand by the work, and I recommend the board adopt the barn usage policy as presented, unless we amend it.
So once the pigs are over 150 pounds, we're gonna kick them outside. Is that right?
So they don't stink up the place.
Okay.
They don't stink under 150 pounds.
Nope.
Nope, 150 is
You ask them about pigs? You said pigs?
Yeah.
Ryan, it's really because of the messing up the dirt inside.
Yep.
Once they get that big, they'll just make a mess of it and
I was-
tear down the panels.
I was gonna impress you. I learned they root, right? Yep. They tear things up.
We felt like by that point, and if it's an FFA project for the fair, we felt that by that time it's warm enough for them to be outside. So that's kind of the thinking behind that.
Okay.
And the key on all this, and that's why we really wanted policy, this is a USD 363 thing, and so it's a board thing, it's an administrative thing. We're not going to hang the teachers out. That said, they've got freedoms, throughout this document, it talks about working with the FFA sponsor until it just can't be done. And then, come through the administration to help make things happen. But it's just like we have facility usage policies. I mean, it makes sense to have something in place, so.
It says bedding will be provided, and then in the financials, there was a big purchase of wood chips, so they're gonna just reimburse us?
No,
for
that
it?
wood chips were for our playgrounds.
Oh.
Yeah. You connected A and B and got L.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's for the playgrounds, Ryan.
Okay,
I can see where you made that connection, though.
that's all I got.
You must be gifted. There you go.
Today at like 3 o'clock, I read two Friday letters and all the minutes.
You lucky guy. Yep. We have cameras on order. When do we think they're getting them? When we get? Yeah, 2026. They're on order, but there's two pieces of this. There's a fiber project Randy can speak to, but it's in the process of being done. We can get the cameras tomorrow. It won't work unless the fiber gets out there. And so Randy's coming in to talk fiber. So come on in, Randy. So the cameras are on order. We're waiting for the fiber to take place, and Randy's gonna give you a promise, a guarantee the fiber will be done by?
2024. Permits are in progress. Contractor has been awarded. Still just a matter of getting everything kind of flowing. So I sometime this semester, I'm guessing.
So the fiber comes directly from the school? Is it coming from the schools, or?
It'll come from the high school to all the other high schools in the district. District office, maintenance shop, bus transportation, and the FFA barn goes directly to the middle school, since that's kind of an annex from the middle school.
And so it's all in process. Sometimes our money's not green enough. I don't know exactly.
Part of the luxury problem of this is that there was so much money available for COVID uses within the school district. A lot of school districts did this, so they're way busier than they have been in the past. So it's just a matter of kind of going through all the processes. And I know that the engineers have been out here and they've done walkthroughs. We have the blueprints are kind of drawn up, and permits, I guess, were not required from Holcomb, but Dr. Myers and Sam both indicated we needed to get that approved through Finney County, so I know they've been advised to do that as well. But they feel like that should be able to kind of get things rolling in the next month or so. But I don't think the process itself will be too long once they actually kind of get started at it. But
Any other questions?
I'll go back in my hole.
So back to the 150-pound pig thing. A lot of the reason to have that barn is so you can put those light-skinned pigs inside of there and in the shade, because it is next to impossible to keep those hogs from getting sunburned out there in the old FFA pens out there. So I don't know that I would agree with having to move those show pigs out in the sun when they're 150 pounds, because they're just going to get burnt to a crisp.
People who have ag knowledge, I welcome your response.
I would suggest not getting a pink pig. What are those ones called that are?
They're not Peppa Pig.
They're not Peppa Pig? What are?
I had pink pig and it got sunburnt to a crisp. It was not.
I always had
Put a
Durox.
white pig out in the sun for one day and it can't walk. Cause it gets sunburned so bad, especially if it's been inside for half of its life.
So if I can, coming from someone I've been working with show pigs and everything since I was 10 years old. I do understand your concern, but also I'm gonna come back to what Jill said, because and that was a big discussion we had as a committee, but the big thing is, I've been around a lot of pigs, and I do understand, I get absolutely what you're saying. The big thing for me is that dirt, they will droop and they will ruin it, and if we wanted hogs in that barn, then they need to be on a fully concreted pad that they can't ruin.
Well, maybe we need to concrete in some of those pins.
Well, we've got the
I'm
ones
saying,
you
don't
were
we have
thinking
some?
about tack, but I mean, if you have them on concrete, they're gonna have to be cleaning those pins all the time.
They're gonna have to clean them all the time anyway.
Well, but
if they're
they're
on dirt.
gonna have to pressure wash them, because that pig urine's gonna ruin the concrete. And if there's block wall right there, they'll ruin that block. That was our concern.
Marcia, you have an opinion?
So with the initial design. So with the initial design, we did look at the full concrete floor. But as we further looked at it, the committee decided to do the dirt in the middle. Yes, bedding will have to be used for whether it's concrete floor or dirt floor. I do see both sides of the pigs being moved outside, because yes, it is with the sun and so on and so forth. Being the pigs outside, they do get sunburned very easily, especially where they don't get acclimated to that early on. Then it is a challenge with sunbird things, infections, disease can spread, not necessarily through the sunburn, but they do have trouble, walking, and their back ends start to fall out with the dippity and the sunburn, and so it does pose a large issue for the health of the animal. But it also can be maintained just the same as outside, as the health of the animals maintained inside. Washing out stalls, concrete would be more ideal to completely sanitize and clean out the barn, essentially. But I think things could be done either way. And as far as damage to they will root in the dirt. They will, absolutely. There's no way, I don't know how to avoid that. But as far as damage to the panels, if you put regulations on, a lot of times with panels and stuff like that, if you have multiple animals in the pen, to where if we had like 2 pigs, they seem to cause more of a ruckus with 2 in a pen than they would just with 1 individual in the pen. But either way, inside, outside, you're going to have some challenges and some cleaning and different costs incurred
Historically,
there.
percentage-wise of the current farm, what percentage of the 100% of the animals we've had out there have been pigs? I mean, how big of an issue
Half of
is
them.
this?
Yeah, probably
Half of
50%.
them.
50%?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've never had pigs there year round that I've been here. We do have goats year round, or we have had goats in my time here year round, but not pigs. We haven't had pigs year round, mainly from the March, like spring break time, middle of March to August, then sometimes into September, depending upon if the student is taking them on to State Fair or Kansas Junior Livestock Show. But I've only had that once with students that are keeping animals at the farm.
What
with
about just on
pigs.
the east side of the building with the lean-to? They'd be
So just in the last week, my dad and I were actually looking at some stuff over there where the awning is, where initially we had the doors. So with that, I wondered about maybe putting concrete underneath that awning on that east side and building pig stalls there. Wasn't sure if that could be an option down the
I
road,
think
because
if-
right, that awning is there. If we put the stalls or concrete like out a little bit away so it's not up against the building itself,
and building stalls there, then it would just be kind of the runoff, and we'd have to monitor that and
And
see the
part of
best
the
option for there.
Part of the idea of that design was to see what we need down the road.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, the initial was to build runs out
Yeah.
that east side.
How have you done, I mean, before we haven't had the barn, did you have many kids show white pigs?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you fight that?
We used a lot of sunscreen, didn't we,
Yeah,
Ryan?
That's what I figured.
We used a lot of
If you
sunscreen.
put a 200-pound pig on concrete and you don't get it out and exercise it every day, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have bigger issues than a sunburn.
Right, yes.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, there's definitely concerns on both ways, because if they're on concrete and they don't get out to get exercise, then yeah, that's a whole nother ballgame. So there's health issues posed either way, whether they're inside on concrete or outside on the dirt, so. Definitely challenges both ways.
I think it's one of them things we'll figure out as we get there.
As I alluded to in my writing previous to the board meeting, the beautiful thing about board policy is it's not mandated by anybody. This is, if the board accepts this and approves it tonight, we could come back in November and say, oh man, we missed the boat mark on that one, or whatever aspect of it is. I still recommend the board approve the policy as presented, fully well knowing we're gonna keep our eyes open, and we're gonna see what's going on.
Just when you think you have every policy, new policy, you got every base covered.
No way, no how.
Somebody
The only
throws a
thing-
white pig at you.
The only thing I would say is if you revisit it in November, we may not have pigs,
I just
between
threw out a month.
just a month.
It could be March. It could be 2 Julys from now.
I just know we may not have pigs in there between now and then.
I just have a feeling that if it becomes an issue, we'll hear about it.
Yep.
That's, and that's fine.
I do fear that it may hinder kids wanting to show pigs if they don't have the opportunity to keep their animal in the barn, with other species. So.
Well, for now, I move we adopt the barn policy as presented.
Ryan Strivogel
Second it.
and Jill. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the new barn usage policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Let's move to,
Say thank you to Marcy for your support this weekend at the state fair. Even the younger kids, she was everywhere and words of encouragement and stuff like that. I really appreciated you, Marcy.
thanks, Marcy. I saw the pictures. Did you get a piece of the sauerkraut hamburger pizza?
My husband ate about
I know he sent me a picture.
I passed.
Wow, that's the best.
Passed at that offer.
Okay. All right, so now we're gonna move to new business and we're gonna review the rec budget.
Yeah, it just basically boils down to, even though we don't really have any authority over the rec commission, we do serve as their taxing entity. So you have the information about their budget. They too had to do the RNR resolution. Basically, they're coming forward for a 4.6 proposed estimated mill rate, which is in line with what they've had in the past. It's 3.6 for operations and 1 mill for personnel. It's basically what they've had in the past. I recommend that you approve their budget so they can operate.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan Ruda and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2022-23 Holcomb Rec Commission budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we'll move to the adoption of our budget.
I can start all the way back over with the budget information if you'd like me to. I see a yes. Or I'll just ask that the board, I recommend the adoption of the 22-23 budget as presented with all the information that we discussed earlier about the needs assessment and all that kind of good stuff. So,
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Curtis,
Second.
Ryan Strivogel. Moved and seconded to adopt the budget for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
All right, the city of Holcomb has a couple of different opportunities for two separate governmental programs. Robin was not able to come, and Lana knew we were going to talk about pigs, and so she begged to come represent.
I am so thankful I was here.
I thought so. So the two different, and so Lana's serving in place of Robin. I'm sorry, no, Lana is, yeah, instead of Robin. So I'll give you my thumbnail sketch of this. If you have any other questions for Lana, I'm sure she can handle them for you. But one of the programs is the Rural Housing Incentive District Program. Bottom dollar, both of these different programs are to motivate, incentivize people to either develop a property and or build new, or the infrastructure behind it. And long term, both these things would provide opportunities for people to live here and or increase the assessed valuation of the district. But both of these programs are, have tax abatements from the get-go, at the start of it. This one, the Rural Housing Incentive District Program, is specific to two different areas of the city. You have a diagram to show you this, right over here, and then way over here on the Long Railroad going out of town. And so if somebody comes and develops those areas, puts in the infrastructure, puts in the plumbing, what all the different things, they basically get a 15-year rebate on what the increase in value of that property would be. So 15 years, they'd still pay the original property value or property taxes, but not the increase due to their improvements. And then after 15 years, and it could be paid off sooner, then it falls off, and it just, once again, the idea is we're betting on the come that by doing that work, something will go into place there, which would bring families and in my hopes, kids. So I don't know if there's anything else you might want to add to that, Lana, or?
Yeah, I would just say that the map that you referenced, right now, there are just 2 parcels on it. We just looked for available parcels that looked large enough to do housing developments, or parcels that folks had talked to us about already. But you can add additional parcels too. So this is just the packet that's going to the Department of Commerce for their original approval. And then after this, you would just have to add a parcel and go through that process again.
And then interestingly, as far as what's legally required or needed here, is the board express support of the RHID for the city of Holcomb. It's not so much you approve it or authorize it, you express support. That's the language. So I recommend that the board express support.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan, Ruda, and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to express support for the RHID for the city of Holcomb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we'll Neighborhood Revitalization Program.
All righty. This one has to do, there's 2 pieces to it. One is commercial property and one is residential property. Basically, it boils down to if someone wants to build on a big addition to their house, let's say a big old garage or something like that, that should increase the value of that dwelling. That's what it should do. And similarly with some sort of business, they add in extra bays to fix tractors or whatever they're going to do. So this provides a tax abatement for X amount of time. For the commercial properties, it's a 10-year sliding scale. So year 1, they get 100% discount off the increased value, then 90%, then 80%, then 70%, down to 0. On the residential, it's a 5-year sliding scale. It starts at 50% off and then 40% all the way down. This particular motion, and if Lana wants to add anything else to it, if you have questions for, is the board to authorize the city to enter into the interlocal agreement for the NRP. So anything else you might want to add, or?
Yeah, you did a great job, Scott.
Thank you.
You're hired.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing we always like to remind people, we never give up existing taxing revenues. So with both of these programs, your base stays the same. You're only giving up a portion of the incremental growth for a set amount of time.
Is there a dollar amount where that threshold for the rebate comes into play? Does it have to be a certain dollar?
On the NRP, I think they might have added like a $5,000. It had to increase by something like that.
It has to be subsidy. If you can't just be, you change your carpet. I mean, this guy, whatever, you put in this big old, garage down here, that would definitely qualify.
Yeah.
Is it retroactively? Once it's approved, can you be like, hey,
Only for
last year I did.
only
this.
for school
It's
board
not.
members.
Thanks
Only-
for asking.
Only for school board members.
Is this just like inside the city limits?
I'm sorry, Curtis, what was that?
Just inside the city limits?
Yeah, this is the city of Holcomb's NRP. The county has considered doing an NRP program as well. We presented them with information. They haven't made a decision yet, but just back on the RHID, I would tell you that the city of Garden City, all of the housing developments we've done, all of them over the last decade have required the RHID to get them done. So appreciate your support of those programs.
So anyway, I recommend the board authorize the city to enter into an interlocal agreement for the NRP.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan, Ruda, and Curtis. Moved and seconded to authorize the city to enter into an interlocal agreement for the NRP. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lana. You're welcome to hang around. We may add something on the agenda about livestock or
Goats?
Broncos are calling my name.
iguanas. That's not football. If you want to watch the Broncos.
Talk about donkeys if you want.
Yeah, we can talk about donkeys. We can talk about donkeys. When are they going to have a football team? I was just wondering if they're going to have one this year. Thank you.
All right, we will move to site council members.
It's an annual event. The the individual buildings have site councils as explanation of what it's all about. Basically, it's a group of parents and/or business representatives who come in and counsel the principals on stuff. Just good conversations that take place. But it's per law that the board is supposed to approve of these site councils. So, and what you need to know is all these individuals volunteered themselves. So it could possibly lead to good substantive conversations. I recommend the approval of the site council members.
Were they supposed to be all in the district?
The patrons.
Just, they can be out?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought
As parents, because the way it's written, it says,
10 years ago, they had to be in the district.
yeah. And the way this is written up here, it says parents, so we'll invite them in.
Just started noticing
Some of them,
a
yeah.
lot of names down in our living garden.
But their kids go to school here.
Right.
Okay.
Looks like a good group.
Who's that Randy Tyne person? I don't know.
Not sure about that one.
That's a crazy one.
You can cross them off if you want.
I recommend the approval of the site council members.
Okay. Ryan Schreivogel,
Second.
Ryan Ruda. It's moved and seconded to approve the site council members as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Delegate Assembly Representative
Okay.
Nominate
George.
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones.
I don't need to talk. All right.
Don't even need to discuss this.
You take that as a, your motion? You made one.
Okay. So it was Ruda and Jill, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Ruda first and Jill second.
Yep. It's moved and seconded that the Delegate Assembly Representative will be Matt Jones.
I've heard trains before, but wow.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Can you still do that? Like, are they gonna Zoom it?
Yeah. But we ought to go to
It's in
Wichita.
Wichita.
We ought to go to Wichita. We
Yeah.
need to support that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, because they keep holding it in Overland Park, which is ridiculous. So we need to fill the fill the hall with Western Kansas folk.
With all the board?
All the board needs to go. Make that motion, Ryan.
All right. Let's move to the creation of 2 new ESSER 3 funded positions.
Okay, as you well know, I've been battling the forces of evil with the ESSER 3 funding, and found out now, finally got an answer. And Sean had told me last month, so we really dug in on it, and nope, it doesn't look like there'll be an extension. So although the state of Kansas dilly farted around, you can write that in the minutes, please, and didn't get the money to us for 3 full years, we have 2 years now to spend the full allotment that we were given who we are and what size we are. What that means is we either have to figure out how to spend the money in a proper way. I don't want to just go by crud, or we'll be sending back over $400,000, and that's the answer I was flat out given the other day. So came back to the drawing board and said, okay, what else can we do to help free up what our needs, thinking at the building needs assessment and the barriers, what is it we need to do to help our population. And one of it keeps coming back. It's learning loss, which comes down to time for my building principals and the key staff. And so one thing is we look at what is on their plate and say, well, what can go away? What can be done by someone else? And so thus the creation of the possibility of a director of instructional services. That individual takes care of all that stuff that's behind the scenes, that work that has to happen to provide the supports for the staff. And you've got a job description which lists a bunch of things that individual would take care of. So that's one position. The other position of interest is the possibility of creating a position for a school social worker, and this is all about trauma and working with families and students who are experiencing trauma and or generational poverty. We now have our new data. We have over 53% of our students qualify for free or reduced meals. So that's up. That's up from where we're generally in the 40s. Now we're at 53%. So take it for what it's worth. But what that does mean, people are struggling, and we see it particularly in the younger kids. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't have need at the upper levels. Fully well aware of, this is the money that will go away. So it has to be out the door by September 30th of 2024. So if the board embraces the idea of creating these positions, and then I'd have to get it approved through the ESER 3 process. So just because you say yes to it tonight doesn't mean we're advertising tomorrow at all. And still have to go through the fight with the battle with the forces of evil again. We'll make sure everybody who's even sniffs at us at all say this job is good for a year and a half. That's what it's good for, or whatever it takes to get it done. But I do think that's money well spent, and if it gets us a leg up and helps us push back the waters a little bit and get the inertia going the proper way with the learning loss stuff, it's worth it. And they are still very, very, very particular on getting it through the tribunal as far as getting approval to utilize it. My question to them was, will you pursue an extension or at least make it easier to get the money through the gate? We're thinking about both these things. Well, that's not an answer. So, but these positions, I do feel, would be beneficial to what we're trying to get done here. I recommend that the board create the two positions as presented.
Did you make that position up? Dr. Myers, Director of Instructional?
It's pulled together from curriculum director and a variety of different things, but yeah, I came up with the term.
Okay. Didn't know if that was a thing or not.
It's a thing. If we call it a thing, it's a thing. And the person is in charge of 200-pound pigs too. We'll put that on there.
So this would be like year and a half at two salaries.
And we'd still
180, 160,000.
It would still have money that we need to figure out. So we're not finished. I mean, unless we want to send the money back, which
Board retreat.
to Wichita, Boot Hill Dispensary,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Gonna have quite. Or you say Moscow?
You guys can
right?
come
They went to
too.
Vegas? No, New Orleans.
Board retreat of instructional services and development.
In New Zealand, we're going to learn about sheep in the southern hemisphere.
We have to support our barn.
Well, yeah, we'll bring New Zealand sheep back over.
So if you say yes to this tonight, the next steps would be I have to get back, what I wrote is, I have to get back into the ring with the KSD to adjust, add information to our application.
So we could approve these positions, and they may say, no, you can't do that.
Absolutely, but I've figured out the Rosetta Stone. I think I've got the language.
Then we got to find people to fill them.
That's correct. That is correct. So there's 3 things that have to occur before someone's getting a paycheck. So.
I recommend we approve these 2 positions.
Okay, Ryan Schreivogel,
Second.
Ryan Ruda. Moved and seconded to create the creation of 2 new positions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
If we could get that in the minutes.
Okay,
as it's written, the creation of 2
creation of 2 new positions.
ESSER 3 funded.
ESSER 3 funded. Do you
Please.
need me to go into your wordsmithing too? Or?
No, you got it.
Okay.
Robin will get it.
You got that, Robin? Thanks, Robin. You're the best. All right, let's move on to disposal of bus number 6.
It is aged out. I don't know if it's a state law or a federal law. All we know is we can't drive a bus after it's come off the manufacturing line 25 years on the 26th year. So if you buy something after it's been on the road for 20 years, you can drive it for 5. That's just the law. It used to be 20 years, now it's 25. But in order for us to sell it or get rid or do anything with it, the board needs to dispose of it. So I recommend that you dispose of bus number 6. We'll strip it of all identifying markers. Then we'll use some online auction service to sell it.
I totally agree with all this, but I seen a minivan with 363 on it the other day, and I don't know how old that thing was. Sam? The minivan?
Vehicles don't come into that.
Yeah.
Vehicles, just buses.
It's just buses.
Just buses. Okay.
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
I wonder how old that thing is.
It's running.
To the Dodge Astro van.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, that we dispose of bus
Okay.
6.
Jill
Second.
and Curtis moved and seconded to dispose of bus number 6. We will love and miss you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Executive session.
15 minutes, please.
15. Okay. Who, just you? Anybody?
Me.
Okay. Why don't we go into executive session for 15 minutes at, is that 8:30?
Yeah, it'd be 8:30. if you wait.
8:30 for 15 minutes to include Dr. Myers.
People come get peach cobbler.
Lots of peach cobbler.
Come get lots of peach cobbler.
Anyone want
So moved.
to? Okay.
Second.
So Jill and Casey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Yeah, turn it off, please. Oh, yeah, probably ought to. Put it on that. Oh, you talking about the vote to go to executive session? Nah.
Also, I promise I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah. Hallie brought them over to our house. You know, there was a Queen of England that died from not live. I can Not the recent one. What's the feature said? Well, she is still last year. I had to give the, I had to go to school to give a speech. And I mean, that's what I. We went out there and ate dinner. And Brittany and I were out there. You could come and sit down. Okay. Apologize.
Choking on my water.
Yep, let's roll it.
All right, we are back in session. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Sherry Dingus as a full-time high school library para.
So moved.
Ruda? Second. Travagel? Moved and seconded to hire Sherry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to hire Rosario Roja as a full-time cook.
So moved.
Second.
Jill and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to hire Rosario. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to hire Leslie McHugh as a full-time cook.
So moved.
Ruda and Schreibogel. Moved and seconded to hire Leslie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to hire Julie Burns as a full-time transportation assistant.
So moved.
Second.
Schreibogel and Curtis. Moved and seconded to hire Julie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Need a motion to hire Zariah Moore Mason as a full-time middle school ESL para.
So moved.
Good. Ruda. Second. And Trivogel. It's been moved and seconded to hire Zariah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to hire Rosanna Martinez as a part-time middle school custodian.
So moved.
Jill. Second. Trivogel. It's been moved and seconded to hire Rosanna. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to hire Solma Franco as a part-time bus driver.
So moved.
Second.
Ruda and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to hire Solma. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the supplementals as presented.
So moved.
Jill and Ryan Ruda. Moved and seconded to hire the supplementals as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One final thing, in keeping with the theme of the evening, question for the board. Honestly, this is a true question, Mr. Dr. Ruda, see what you know. What is the animal called that's a cross between a sheep and a goat?
Ferret.
No.
A sheep and a goat?
It's real. It's a real thing.
A white pig.
Takers?
A shoat. A shoat.
You guys have to go look it up.
It's a geep.
Yep, that's it.
Is it?
Yep, geep. Not a ferret.
Me and my animals.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan, Schreibogel, and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. You had ferret. Road grader.
Ferret.
That was quick.
Did you look for a stamp?